Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I got something that's a little controversial at the moment, but definitely the most cutting edge and coolest thing on the market. Of course, I'm talking about the Fold 3 from Samsung. A lot of people are buying them. Some people are finding that it's not what they expected. So today I'm gonna do a quick review video. I just spent the last week with the Fold 3 and I'm gonna explain to you who should get this phone and who should not. And if you are interested in it, what are the limitations and the expectations for buying it? Sit tight. Let me get into the specs for you guys real quick. To start off, you have a nice AMOLED screen here at the front. It measures 6.2 inch diagonally, but you can tell that it's a little bit thinner than a standard candy bar screen that you're used to. It is AMOLED at 120 Hertz and 387 ppi. Now the front camera here is the 10 megapixel f2.2. It's the same exact camera as on the base S21 model. So you have the Snapdragon 888 on board. You have an IPX8 rating, meaning that it's not dust proof, but it's waterproof. So you can get it wet a little bit, but you don't want to let dust get in because you can actually see, even with the improved hinge design, there's still potential there for stuff to have intrusion. You have a 4400 milliamp battery, which is a little small for a device of this size, but I'll get into that later. 25 watt fast charger, 12 gigabytes of RAM, and you can get it in either a 256 or a 512 gigabyte configuration. The inside screen opens up to an amazing 7.6 inch angle to angle here, still AMOLED at 120 Hertz. Comes in at 374 ppi, and it is an HDR10 plus rated display. Now, I don't know if you can see it or not, at the top here there we go, that is an under display camera, which is basically half of a potato cam. I'm not a big fan of it, you can see it there. You don't really notice it, and that's cool when you're consuming content, but I would rather have a real punch hole there and get a legitimate camera than this nonsense, which is pretty much unusable. They're black, by the way, and the way they integrated the rear camera here is beautiful. You have three 12 megapixel sensors. One is the ultra wide at f2.2. You have the wide at 1.8, and you have the telephoto at f2.4. Similar to the S21, only the S21 uses 10 megapixel for the telephoto. So you're basically getting kind of a compromise here of cameras. It's not the bleeding edge, if you will. You can still shoot pretty good pictures. I'll give you guys some examples here in a second, but you're gonna be losing out on some of the features, like obviously you can't do 108 megapixel or some of the other goodies from the S21 Ultra. All right, so what do I like about this phone? Let's get into it. Basically, first off, it's just super freaking cool, and it's so fun to use. I just love going through it. Flipping it open and close is, part of the highlight of the whole situation. But that's not to say that it's not a productive beast, because as well as this thing does streaming and all the fun things involved for content consumption and gaming, it's also a multitasking dream. So you can sit here and open multiple windows with it. One of the cool things is, even though it's clearly a heavier phone than, say, the S21 Ultra or an iPhone, the way that it widens out to the 7.5 inch screen actually distributes the weight more evenly with two hands. So you end up feeling like it's a lighter phone, as well as the thickness of it. The thickness of this thing is ridiculous. So it's actually a lot more comfortable to hold when you're in a seated position. Now walking, not so much, because you're out and about and you want to one-hand something. I have giant hands, so yes, I can one-hand a fold, okay? Most people aren't going to be able to do this easily and still effectively reach your thumb anywhere that you want on the screen. So that being said, this is cool when you're sitting down, but then obviously when you're walking, you're going to want to use it closed more often than not. Now let's get into the things I don't like so much about this phone. First and foremost, the glaring issue, of course, is there is only a 4400 milliamp battery in this device, and it's a big ass screen. So that being said, there's going to be some compromises on what you can get out of it. Now, it's not awful terrible if you know how to optimize your settings, which I think I'll make a video on how to optimize your battery settings coming after this. But in any case, assuming you can optimize your battery settings, you're gonna average about 5 hours of screen time. Now, it's such a subjective thing with battery life, I get it. Some people barely touch their phone, some of them leave it plugged in, etc. I consider myself a pretty power hungry user. I'm usually using multitasking and streaming, and I'm still pulling about 5 hours on average, with 6.5 or 7 being the upper end and 4 hours being the lower end. And we're talking about somebody that uses the dang phone all day. Next gripe I have with it is the apps are definitely not all optimized there. Obviously, with the different aspect ratio and the more square screen, you're gonna get things that are designed for a candy bar phone. They don't always line up quite the same. One of the things that annoys me is that you can launch an app on the inside and it will only give you, let's say, dark mode on the front. So you have to actually close the app, let's say Facebook, open it on the front screen, then reopen the phone to get it to click in the dark mode for the inside screen. Little things like that are super annoying and buggy. Obviously, as we go throughout time, those things will improve, but for right now, it's a little clunky, especially when it comes to dark mode and aspect ratios with different things. You look at things like TikTok and Instagram, and they just don't fluidly appease the eye. Let's say you're only using half the screen and you're paying for this large screen and you're not getting to use all the real estate. That's super annoying to me. I usually use the S21 Ultra when I'm laying in bed at night because it's just more optimized. The next step is the under display camera here. Well, they did a great job of hiding it and you barely notice it. It's also worthless. It's like a webcam from 10 years ago. It's really terrible. Yes, some people can say it's passable and it uses a little computational photography to get the job done in a jam. If you're doing a video conference call, stuff like that, sure, why not? But for taking pictures that you're ever gonna wanna look at again, it's completely pointless to even have it in there. Now, the good news is it has a great front shooter and it has a great rear shooter. So there's ways to mitigate that. Next thing that sucks, typing on the front screen when you have big hands. So my thumb takes up about 6 letters per press, and while I can get it done with swipe, it is a chore, and it makes me open it when I just want to take a quick message down, and that in itself costs time and efficiency. So if you have big hands, that is something that you may gripe about. The next thing that kind of sucks about it is, I don't know why, but they only included 25 watt fast charging, just like the S21, when if you're gonna have a small battery and a large display, it would make sense to me to maybe go ahead and put the 45 watt charging ability on there, because you know you're gonna have to charge it at least once a day. So going back with the cameras, the only last note I'll say about the cameras is, yes, they're fine, they get the job done, they're not horrible, but for a phone that costs this much money, I would expect them to go with something on the order of the S21 Ultra. Now I understand there's hardwire compromises to make because of the thinness of the phone, but I would have rather had a slightly thicker phone with a bigger battery and better cameras for this price point. So in conclusion, with the Fold 3, it's a mixed bag. It's absolutely a technological marvel, and I'm thankful for Samsung making these devices because, as you know, companies like Apple can't afford to take risks. Samsung diversifies their products, they can take risks to come up with cutting edge new designs, and we all benefit for it, so it's great. It's also the most fun to use phone that I've ever used in my life. I love the fact that you can multitask on it. If you sports bet or a fantasy player, or you do things that involve multiple spreadsheets or multiple windows where you want to track multiple things at once, then 100%, regardless of the limitations, this is the device for you, because of the functionality of being able to do all those things simultaneously well more than makes up for the compromises you make on the battery and camera sides of things. Now, of course, it's not a primary primetime device, I don't think, for most people. If you're just a regular person and you don't need the multitasking, you don't consume a ton of content on your device, I would say it's probably not your primary device of choice. However, it is a great complementary device for those of you that have it in your budget to have 2 phones. If you have an iPhone or a Pixel, I would say definitely give the Fold 3 a shot, because it basically does everything that your iPhone and your Pixel and the other devices that you probably have cannot. Also, currently, with most of the deals, if you either use the trade-in deals for Samsung or you go through Best Buy promotions, you're really only gonna end up paying around $1,100 to $1,400 or $1,500 for these things. So right now, I know it's an $1,800 price point, but pretty much nobody's paying that unless you just don't care and you make an active effort to not get any deals. So seeing as $1,200, $1,400 phone for most people by the time you get it, it really increases the value there. And again, I don't tell people what to buy. I think a lot of people are buying this for the wrong reason. If you just want one phone and you're a budget conscious person, or if you're just taking a shot on buying something a little more premium for the fun of it, you might be disappointed in things like battery life and usability with your applications. But if you're a secondary phone user, or you understand what you're getting with this, or you don't mind the battery compromises, then I wholeheartedly endorse you at least giving this thing a shot. Anyways, where are my Fold users at? Show me down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of it. Anybody looking to buy this thing, shoot me any questions. I'll go ahead and answer them. I always respond within a couple hours of your comment. As always, thanks for tuning to the channel. Subscribe for more content, and I'm going to do that battery optimization video for you guys. So check out that in the next couple days. Anyways, as always, appreciate your time. Stay safe out there. I'm out of here.